Da, 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 da. Hey y'all, what's going on? This is your man Severe Lean. What's happening? What's popping? Well, you know what's dropping. Yeah, some more knowledge tonight right here on Daddy's Right Here Live. We're going to be talking about 6 ways, and there are many, to not take things personally. Yeah, yeah, right? It's business or it's personal. And you have to be able to know the difference. Because if you're handling business related matters in a personal way, regardless of whether it affects you personally or not, this is business. And business is not always the workplace. Yeah. It's some things that happen in your home, some things that happen in the community. It's things that happen and they affect you personally. Let me be clear on that. They affect you personally. But your response to them, if they're business related matters, should always be held in that capacity. Because the letter is the law. And that's what you have to understand. Got nothing to do with your unresolved, the trash that you carry around within your spirit. Has nothing to do with what you think. None of that. None of that matters. None of it matters. Because at the end of the day, that's what makes the determination how the responder is going to address that. And we're going to talk a little bit about this tonight because it could make you or break you, but especially if you're in the workplace environment, especially if you're at a place of business, because everything comes down to policy and procedure, right? Policy and procedure. What is the policy and procedure saying about this particular matter? What does the business say in terms of what they have the right to do? Yeah, for disgruntled customers. Yeah, you didn't do it right, this, that, and the other. I bought it here, I paid for this. You didn't do this, you didn't do that. Okay. Conversationally, that sounds like it makes a lot of sense. But the conversation is not going to always be that way, especially when your feelings are involved, especially when you spent money to get something done. Yeah. When you have things that are happening in the community that are destroying the community, that are literally destroying the community, open air drug traffic on the corner. We all know what comes along with that. Crap games on the corners. We all know what comes along with that. Yeah. Trap houses on the block. We all know what the end result is going to be. And you say, well, what does that have to do with me? Everything. It's your damn business. It's your business. When people say that ain't none of my business, you part of the street culture. You're part of street culture, which is a problem that we have in many communities today. I ain't no snitch. Oh, you part of the culture? Are you part of the culture? See, no more do I want to get involved in your business. Do you want me involved in your business? See, because if I get involved in your business, then you're going to lose money. When you lose money, that's the problem for you. If you one of those out there indulging in that behavior, all of those tough talk, I ain't shook by none of that, man. And you can't be. You can't be when it comes to you making the decision of how this is going to get addressed because it has to get addressed. It has to get addressed. You may not be the one to directly address it, but if that's the case, you should be the one picking up your phone and taking some pictures. You should be the one picking up the telephone and making a call to the police. See, that's why we got this nonsense running so many of our communities. But how long do you think it's going to be before you're next any damn way? You or your family member. How long do you think it's going to be? Just a matter of time. And that's why we have the culture that we have in the streets. There's total disregard for life. We just recently had a mother and her child shot. This is cowardice. It's cowardice when you running up on a family and just shooting them. But if you really built like that, just step to that person directly and go ahead and do what you're going to do. Why are you running and spraying? So that is my business. If it's happening in my community, because I'm not going to wait for a second time. No. No. And even when you're carrying, you ain't always going to be the quickest one. There's only two kinds of soldiers, the quick and the dead. Remember that. Understand? So you have to look at what is your business and how is it going to be addressed. Again, things personally affect you. But how do you conduct your business in addressing the matter? Because everything comes down to the letter of the law. Plain and simple. There's no way around it. Every situation ends with the reading of some document to make a determination as to what the outcome is going to be. Real simple. No matter who the jurors are, the jurors got to read that paper too. They have to be clear, right? HR has to be clear. Everybody who's involved, the business owners have to be clear. Before a business owner steps his foot into a situation or her foot into a situation, they're very clear, or they should be pretty clear on their policies and procedures before they step into it. Because it can cost you your life, continued freedom, and a whole lot of money. So you always have to think before you act. You should be doing that anyway. For this list that we're going to be talking about tonight of the 6 ways to not take things personally, hopefully will help. Yeah. So take some of that information, something that really stands out for you to prevent you from doing it, and just put it in your pocket because you're not going to remember a whole hour of conversation. You're just not. None of us are. Because as adults, we all learn differently. We hands on, you got to walk me through it. You got to give me scenarios. We all have different ways of learning, right? So let's go ahead and jump into it. And again, welcome to another live episode of Daddy's Right Here Live. I'm your host, as always, Sabir Aline. If you've never tuned into this show before, welcome. If you've been attending the shows, whether it's on YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, wherever it's been, thank you for your continued support. And just know that I'm not going to pull any punches, be very direct with it. I don't have profane laden conversation. You'll get one or two throughout the hour from me, but that's another part of learning, like how to have a conversation with the person without dropping all kind of f bombs and all the other superlatives that can pour forth out of your mouth, because this is how you're going to defend yourself. That's not going to help you in the court of law. It's not going to help you in any situation. It's not. So you can stand in front of as many judges as you want and plead this and plead that. It's going to always go back to this, because another part of that becomes uh, uh, how long did this disdain reside within you? Because it becomes evident, or some at some point, whether this was even premeditated in terms of how you decided to address it. They look at historics and everything. Well, you did this before. Yeah, it's not the first time we've had to come to a restaurant and remove you because you decided you wanted to return some food and then snap out at the staff because it wasn't desirable. And then once you snapped out, they all hands on deck and we putting you out of here one way or another. And now you don't even have a leg to stand on because you had already committed all these violations afterwards. So by the time they get done picking you apart, you walk out of there with nothing because you reacted personally. But it's business. It's business. Most of my life, it seems like I've been involved in business in some capacity, but I became a true professional in '94 when I entered into a consistent workplace environment. I just retired last year after 30 years in the field, and a lot of learning. A lot of learning. Entrepreneurs, you need to get on board with that. You can't just talk to people any kind of way you want. You can't just say what it is you want just because it's your business. Your business can be blacklisted for that kind of behavior because nobody wants to put up with somebody got a slick mouth. You're gonna have business. You're gonna be professional about it. You're gonna learn how to address things with people. No, the customer's not always right, but they're always right. You understand that? No, you probably don't. So you need to come to understand, things like that. Very basic things, 101 kind of guidance, but you step over it because you're getting your feelings about some stuff. Yeah. And that's one of the things you need to learn to navigate through when you're angry. You know, is this something that existed before? I was kind of back and forth on the subject matter of about propaganda, or this one here about taking things personally. And I did, I felt like if I did the one on propaganda, it'd have been like putting a horse before the cart, you know, and you don't want to do that. You want to get the horse first. So before you come to understand propaganda and its intent and its sources, it's first important that you understand that right now you're engulfed in emotions because of what the current political era is like. A lot of decisions being made every moment of the day. A lot of things changing. From a war with Venezuela, so called, again, propaganda wants you to think and feel about a particular group, a person, place, or thing. And everything that you see before you is driving you in an intended direction. Yeah. Everybody wants something from you. I want something from you. I want you to watch the show, enjoy it, listen, learn, and put to use some of the information so it'll help you. Again, 30-year clinical career, substance use, abuse, um, serious and persistent mental illness, um, overall behavioral modification program. Yeah, and apply it to myself. Still apply it to myself even after retirement. Um, I ask myself, every now and again, do I ever plan on returning to the field of human services? Miss it? Uh, I don't know that it would be in the capacity of direct care ever again because so many environments have been tainted with disregard. Doesn't seem like anybody is being groomed, taken under the wing of a more seasoned, experienced person. People are just seeking employment, seeking degrees, seeking credentials, just so they can be in these particular positions. And it's just not the way it used to be. People, you ask them in the interview all these questions. Oh yeah, yeah, I can do that. Yeah, I can do it. Oh yeah. And then when it's time to do that, they're like a deer in the headlights. So I love human and social services. For me, it's a matter of being in a position of uh, being above the director, being able to make decisions, make changes to change an environment, right? Being able to do those kind of things, even if it's just to make strong recommendations of change, right? But I feel like I've just always been this person, like a professional. I started a nonprofit, right after I completed my master's program at Lincoln University. Uh, I excelled within a year's time from like a site tech kind of position to a supervisor, and I've been in the supervisory position most of my career. I stepped out of direct straight community correction uh, facility into a therapeutic community based treatment environment for men and women coming out of state correctional institutions with serious and persistent mental illnesses. Um, so when I moved into that, I came in as a counselor, and within no time I had, excelled back up. And so been in the supervisor position for a long time, seen a lot of things, talked to a lot of people, try to groom a lot of people's attitudes and shape people's attitudes in the direction that works. Yeah, it works, right? Never had a problem going above and beyond. Never. Do what has to be done. My job was to make my boss look good, not me. It wasn't about going in there and making me look good. It was about going in there doing beyond the best because I wanted to move up. You can't move up with the same stank attitude, the slick mouth. Nah, you can't go nowhere because you're personalizing everything, right? And everything is always going to be personal. And again, the same if you're an entrepreneur. You can't keep a business. You can't be successful in the business with a funky attitude, plain and simple. And your funky attitude is all over social media. Everything about your attitude is all over social media. All I got to do is just pull up one of your pages. I know you then. I know who you are. Right? I know who you are. There's nobody that can go onto my page, any of my pages, any of these shows. It's always an open mic. Yeah, I've sat down and done 2 hour shows. What you think, how you have cultured yourself, how you have been cultured becomes evident. It is so easy to see. I know who you are when I sit down in front of you. I know who you are. I pick up real quick on people's energy, right? And there's some people who have bad energy, but you still have to engage them. And you have to engage them at a level based on your values, morals, and beliefs. Not what you think, not what you think about them, him or her, but what is your duty? What is your responsibility? See, when I came into the field, I had mentors. And I still have people I can pick up the phone and call, hey, I got a question. I need some help on this. Never encountered this before, and I've encountered a lot of things. So I'm still open minded. I still allow people to guide me. So you have to ask yourself, why do you take so many things personally? And a lot of it, most of it, is your own unresolved. We always talk about the what's his name, the little short guy, Napoleon. He's got this Napoleon complex, right? He's a little guy, right? Well, they meant little and short, but they said the same thing about David, right? And I can liken myself to the size of David at some point, and some others who are bigger than me that think that I'm a little scrawny dude like David, right? Keep that thought. But my point is, there are a lot of people who have a lot of unresolved, most of it from childhood. how they were treated as a child by the caretaker, how they were treated in school, how they were treated in the neighborhood, how they were treated by others, because that's where the growth in those particular areas of negativity, you know, begin to manifest. And you start looking at those kind of things, you're like, I wish he would. Then you have the propaganda that you fed every day, right? The childlike stuff that you see today in Congress, in the Senate, in the White House. I don't like him. He's not my friend. Well, we friends outside of this. Well, you're friends outside of this, but then we don't talk to each other when this happens. That's like children do that. And now you begin to see the breakdown because people have taken these things personally because they've built personal relationships throughout the years of their careers. So now they're acting like a bunch of 3-year-olds. We're going to take some truckloads of little orange, red, blue balls, the little sponge ones, and put up a little plastic fence and put that in that new ballroom that Donald Trump is building. So all of those childlike individuals can go in there and play while the ones who are about the business part of it can take care of the business. But that's how you ultimately have to do in your life because you have people around you like that. And they drain the hell out of you if you don't have that kind of energy, they drain the hell out of you. And you begin to personalize it, not realizing that that's who they were before you began your change, before you began to grow. You just didn't want to pay attention to it. You were growing, unbeknownst to you. So anyway, Ellen Hendrickson, PhD, Psychology Today article, 6 ways to not take things personally. Walk the line between overreacting and underreacting. Yeah, you got to find the line there. I can tell you, before I made the life shift back in '94, I was more than a handful. Very aggressive and very assertive and very damn smart. Pretty learned person, would do some homework, again, very intuitive, know who's dirty, who's slick, who's for real, and who just acts like they for real. Right? Good with all of that. So, but I was always, in that mindset of, the F you, your family, anybody else who got something to say about it, right? Because I knew that I was great at what I did in terms of fulfilling the duties at the job when I was there. But when I made that shift in '94, I had again mentors, man. I got called into the office, quite a bit. He'd be down the hallway looking at me and come here. I'd be because I worked in a community corrections facility. I was in the street, so I dealt with things, you know, like these dudes just coming out. They think they're gonna chump me, this, that, and the other. Thinking, thinking, not thinking from the perspective of this is somebody's son, father, uncle, nephew. None of that. Wasn't thinking those kind of things. Wasn't thinking, well, they just like you. They made some mistakes. Some of them still making mistakes. Some of them still going to make mistakes. You made a clear decision yourself that you wanted to walk away from. But what were you walking away from? How did you walk away from it? How much changed about you from the time you walked away from the street to the time you entered into this position? Had to learn those things. Yeah. And this is the kind of thinking, the thought process, and the analysis that you have to do of self in order for you to be able to begin to move in another direction. Yeah. Uh, Hold on a minute here. I'm having a signal issue here with Facebook, so I'm just going to move over to TikTok, Facebook. I mean to YouTube. because that's where it's going to be initially. Y'all excuse me with that one there. It just kind of slipped in there. Whoops. Always got to get see if stuff like that happen. Is like my bad. It's like, don't go that way. So yeah, so those are kind of things that you have to begin to think of. Those are kind of things that you have to begin to internalize when you start talking about the difference between taking something personally that is really a business related matter, right? You have to focus on your thinking because it's the must-itises, the should-itises, the can't stand-itises, all of those things that we talk about in changing thinking. It's called cognitive restructuring. So I'm a cognitive behavioral specialist, right? Looking at your thinking errors because it's the thinking errors that get you in trouble. First, what you think, what you think before it comes out your mouth, what you think can be interrupted by another thought. By another thought, right? So when you thinking you want to do something that don't make sense, you want to overreact to a situation, right? You have these what we call thought stopping techniques, right? So the first thing should pop into your mind is something that's going to cause you to deviate from where you're about to go. So for instance, what would be the first thing that comes to mind when you ready to put your hands on somebody? For me, freedom. Continue freedom. My wife, my children. Those things should come into your mind first. But if you have begun to condition yourself in that capacity where I'm not going to do this because I like my freedom, so I'm not going to do this. But when you start as a male, start grasping at your ego, your humiliation that you're experiencing right now, and the embarrassment right now, that competitiveness where like I'm gonna stomp him in his face. That's what I'm gonna do, right? But how do you go home and explain to your child that dude said something slick out of his mouth, and instead of me thinking about y'all first and my freedom, right? I didn't think about those things. So now here I'm looking at a 3.5, a 7, right? Simply because I didn't give myself the privilege of thinking before I acted. What was the issue about? What was the issue about that you guys were fighting over, right? What was the real issue? A dude he walked past, bumped me, and didn't say, excuse me. Okay. How did it all develop? Did you see him first? Could you have just moved over? Because he seemed to be, because like they used to call me helicopter one, because I would swing my arms uh, when I walked. And over the years, I've had to cut that stroll down, from Philly. So we got different walks in Philly. But there was something different that you could have done. You saw the person walking towards you, but instead of you moving over to avoid the bump, you stood your ground and you got bumped. Now you want to react to something you could have avoided, but you didn't avoid it. That's why I say when you start looking at what's business and what's personal, you got to always think there's a letter that always goes with all of this. What is the law? What is the law? Because even if you say that there's film footage, it doesn't matter. Did you attempt to avoid the contact between yourself and that other person? Did you do that? You didn't see him coming. Yeah, I knew he was going to. So why didn't you just move? You already knew his intentions. You saw the intent. He was going to bump into you. He was going to walk into you. And it's funny I'm talking about that because it reminds me of the incident that happened with the state trooper, right? And the ball players, right? The football players come out of there after scoring and whatnot, and the trooper walks, and you see him. But here's the thing: who was right and who was wrong, right? If an officer is coming through there, I'm not telling you to bow down, cower, none of that stuff. But that is a law enforcement official who's walking in the direction he's walking toward you. Why didn't you move over? Right? Because you got that uniform on. You that your damn testosterone are running that amok that you didn't see him coming. But there was actually two of y'all. The one next to him could have did something. So we don't know what was exchanging that. But my point is, both of them could have done something different in yielding. Because you're law enforcement, it don't mean that somebody has to because you're a man just like me. You don't get carte blanche to just like bully your way through the tunnel either. But there was wrongness on both of them because they both saw that they were walking pretty damn close to each other. As a matter of fact, that if you looked at the picture, you would have seen the officer walking that way, and you'd have seen that there was no gap that officer would have been able to walk through. So then they want to add all this other stuff. That's why I wanted to do the show on propaganda. But I'll do the show on propaganda next week. But my point is, if you saw it coming, you could have avoided it. So let's just go to the article: 6 ways not to take things personally. Right? Every one of us has a tender underbelly of our psyche. Everyone has something they're sensitive about, where even a gentle poke can feel like more of a twack. Like they just poked you in your belly and you just felt it otherwise. Comments don't slide off the water from a duck's back. Rather, we feel more like a sitting duck, right? And again, it says we feel like. And again, feelings, right, are dictated by thought. Why are you feeling that way? Hey, wifey, what's going on? We got Denise Bryant. What's happening? So when you start looking at your feelings, why are you always up in your feelings about something? When a person is constantly in their feelings about something, that's some unresolved that needs to get resolved, or they're going to continue to react in the same manner. It's always going to be personal. Lady Di, how are you? How are you? Tell me, like, just got to look at it. You're going to always react that way because you have this sensitivity about yourself that is grounded in unresolved. Juan, Kentucky, what's going on? You understand what I'm saying to you? So if you always walk around, you know, all balled up in some kind of negative emotion or just emotional, period, like you just want to just break down, you want to fall apart, you're heading in the right direction, but you're preventing yourself from falling apart so you can be brought back together. So while you're trying to hold something together that's already broken, it's cracked all the way around. You ever take a boiled egg and take it and just roll it around on the counter and it has cracks all around it, but it hasn't opened and you got to start peeling off? Well, you got to put some salt in the water. But that's how fragile people are. And it's by design that we're fragile. You have to understand that part. If it was meant for us to be healthy in this life, in the world we live in, if it was meant to be that way, we still wouldn't have people who are still doing research 30, 40, 50, 60 years from now. Damn, it don't take a whole lot to figure out. But it's more money in research than it is in healing. But when you take that egg and you roll it around and then you have to start picking those pieces off, well, that's ultimately what happens to you in life, right? You get so embattled from childhood into going into high school, going into college, going into the workplace, going into the street. You get so broken up. But all of these things that happen in life, I don't have to give you a list. What happens in life that really hurts sometimes, right? So you get all broken up, and then you find yourself in a situation where the smallest thing happens, and you just have a total meltdown. You lose your job, you lose your wife, your husband, you lose your mind. And we don't see how fragile this society is that is on the brink of a complete and total meltdown. But most people don't know how to deal with meltdowns because they never tried. They never learned. They never learned about themselves. They never learned about themselves. Most people don't really know who they are. They tell you who they are, but they've never been inside to look and see what's going on so I can bring about some kind of change within. Then the change happens without because you know what direction that you're going to go in. So things don't just slide off your back like water on a duck, right? People tell you that it sounds real hit, cool, and fly. But if you are not uh, emotionally intelligent, is the new buzzword. If you have not been inside of yourself and all you've been doing is pointing fingers at other people and blaming them for your circumstance, blaming them for things that happen, you got a long way to go because that means if you have left a lot of wreckage along the way and people have seen you and people have avoided you, people stay away from you because every time you enter into the equation, it's always like it's 1 plus 1, and then we got to bring the police in, we got to bring security in because you got to go, right? Back to the article. So how can we take things less personally, both to benefit ourselves and others? Because it ain't just about you. Some situations you have to fix unless you're just going to keep leaving your job because you don't get along with so and so. I can tell you that I became a master at how to create win win situations in any circumstance that happens. Because anytime you are seeking a win lose situation, seeking a win lose resolve to conflict, you're really always the one that's losing when you think you're winning, right? How can we toughen up without becoming hard hearted, right? There are a lot of people who worked under me uh, throughout the 30-year career who had issues with me simply because I maintain integrity when it comes to how I provide services to the lives that I was given responsibility for. And I always told people, you treat that person like it's your most loved family member. I don't give a damn what you think about them. I don't care what you think about their crime. That crime is none of your business. Your job is to perform this duty. All that old extra stuff, I'm not with it. They're in here because of their antisocial conduct. Yeah. So your job is to teach them. How are you going to teach somebody that when you don't want to do it yourself? So number one on the list, Izzy, Stone, Fran, what's happening? Thanks for tuning in. So number one on the list is consider the source. Would you be as likely to drink water from a mountain spring as from a puddle under a dumpster? Of course not. But why? Aside from the fact that you are smart, it's because the source matters. Right? Did you understand? Okay. The same thing goes for criticism. Does the critique come from someone you like and respect? Does this person know you well? Or is this someone known to shoot off their mouth, have all the subtlety of a sledgehammer, or has never had an authentic interaction with you? In short, you taking criticism very differently if it was presented with care from someone you trust versus shouted from a moving car. Consider the source, which will help you decide whether to take their feedback to heart or with a big grain of salt. And I can use myself as an example. I've been doing this show since 2007. It's had different titles. It's been Daddy's Right Here Live, It's been Side Spot. I've done the Wise View, which was an all male panel. So I've been doing this since 2007, right? Someone said, well, that's great. That's wonderful. Yeah, I'd probably believe you because that's a long time to be doing something online. Hell, I didn't even know you were doing shows like this in that period of time. But then someone say, okay, well, great. You've been doing it for 20 years, 25 years. That's wonderful. That don't mean that I would follow you. I'd follow the person who sounded this way, sounded that way, because you know they sound better to me. Some people like certain talk. They like to hear things in a certain way. As much of an intellectual I am, I don't throw out $50 words. I give a $2 word, a 5-cent word. I don't need to be able to pontificate and all this other. I don't need to have to be able to do that. All I need to be able to do is deliver a simple and clear message. You too can change. Plain and simple, if you want to. Mario, family man, what's going on? Thanks for tuning in. What's this? Bad Joe, Joseph, Val, what's happening? So it's just a matter of what do you want to put into this, right? Consider the source. I might sound like I have some sense, but have you watched other shows? Have you seen consistency? Because it's important to see consistency from a person as well. We may never have any kind of interaction directly, but if you watch the shows, you start saying, that makes sense. Things start making sense. But what often happens is as soon as something is said that doesn't make sense, do you change the course of trust? See, that's the other piece. You should be learning from every encounter, every engagement with another person. The easiest thing to work on is, yo, we kind of click, I gravitate towards that person. I don't want you to click with me. I don't want to be your friend. That's who I am. Straight up. That's who I am. I'm not looking for any of that. I'm not looking for friends. I'm not looking for likes. I'm not looking for hand claps. I do this because I believe that this is my ministry. So what I give to you, I give to you from the heart. Plain and simple. I give it to you directly because I'm trying to help you see how you can save your life and how you're responsible for changing. I'm not changing anybody's life. I don't care how long I've been doing this. I'm not changing anybody's life. You make a conscious decision to change based on the information you got. You went and looked into yourself. I want to lead you towards self discovery so you can see for yourself. Because if I tell you, you're not going to believe me anyway because I don't know you. That's a reality. Anybody in human services, anybody who's doing counseling, think they have the power to change somebody's life. You need to take a look at their own lives. I don't have that power. I may influence. I may agitate. I may instruct. I may direct to sources. Again, 30 years in the field of human and social services, I still read psychology today. I still periodically enter into my collegiate text and pick up some additional information. I still continue to learn, right? But it's your perception of the individual in front of you, like it said here. Consider the source. Who would you trust with that information? And why do you think that they're getting the right information? Why do you think they're giving you the right information? There's a lot of good talkers out there. But what do you feel and hear when they're talking to you? What comes from the heart reaches the heart, and that's real. That's real. Plain and simple. Ain't no real coming from the street. The street, every man, woman for themselves. Plain and simple. Say what you want to say. Been there, done that, got the t-shirt. You still want to believe that? Nah, there's no loyalty in the streets anymore. Loyalty went out in the streets in the 70s before cocaine showed up, thanks to the United States government, CIA, right? That changed everything. The game changed. There's no loyalty in the street, no honesty among thieves. None of that exists. And you'll see if you really take a look at who's around you today, you'll really begin to see who these people really are and how people change on you. No, you can never expect the unexpected because you should be expecting the unexpected. It's coming. When it comes, how are you going to handle it? People go through things in lives. Things happen in people's lives. People do some stupid things when their back is up against the wall. The most honest person gets caught up in not being able to make that mortgage note, the card note. They get ready to get put on the streets. You got money around. It happens to people. Stuff happens, man. So you got to expect that stuff. I trust no one. Plain and simple. Doesn't mean I treat you in that capacity. I don't treat you like you're untrusted. Gaither Jackson, what's going on? Mr. P. Gohert 1984. Esvin. Bonita, welcome, welcome. You understand what I'm saying? So I don't put myself in a position where I have to deal with any of that. I don't do the shenanigans. I don't do drama. I don't do nonsense. I don't do those things. My psyche doesn't absorb those kind of things well. So I just move on. Number 2, give critics another chance, but not unlimited chances, which is segue for what I was just talking about. People say mean things. People can be dumb. People have no filter. It's only human to make a mistake and say something critical or insulting. But if it happens again and again, it's not a mistake anymore. It's a pattern. To paraphrase, critique me once, that's on you. Critique me twice, it's on me. But if you're repeatedly insulted without apology or acknowledgement, it's time to speak up and or limit contact. 3 strikes and you're not necessarily out, especially if you still have to work with, here we go, or be related to them. But it's definitely time to draw some boundaries. So for me, right, I've learned throughout the years to set boundaries. I've learned to set boundaries throughout the years. Hence the reason I can count how many friends I have on one hand. And I'm 65. One hand. Half of that hand. But what I'm saying to you is we set ourselves up for these kind of things to happen. You got 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 people in your life. We cool, this, that, and the other. Something go down with the other one. They're trying to figure out how they're going to handle it, how it's going to be dealt with. Don't make sense. Like this dude, Max B, who just got out of jail. Some people who are close to him, right, are close to other people who ain't close to him, right, who are trying to figure out, like, about going to this Max B coming home party. And I'm like, y'all sound like a bunch of little kids. Like, how do you make a decision to not go to another person's function simply because y'all don't get along? Listen, that's between y'all two. We did that as kids. Oh, I don't like him because, he mad at him and they don't talk this, that, and the other. Hey, babe. They don't, are you online and you here? Oh my God. So that's the kind of childish stuff. Grown ass men talking about, well, I want to go to the function, but like, this is my man too. It's your man. Is he it's a little confusing. That's your man, and and that's your man. So what's up, yo? I'm a holler at you. I'm going to Max B's tonight, so I'll catch up with you tomorrow. What's the issue? Y'all grown men beefing about what? Right? But it's the same mindset when and this is what I was saying at the beginning of the show. There's going to be situations where you can't get away from being around that person. You can't. But you take the same position in your own home with your spouse, your girlfriend, boyfriend, you the same position you take with your children. You take that same position with everybody else too. It's just not as prevalent, right? Because somebody who you just like had decided, I don't like him, I don't like her, you're blatant with it. Other people, it's things that trigger you, and you react in the same capacity because it triggered you because you haven't brought resolve to none of that. You understand? So you have to ask yourself, if you're an adult, how are you walking around not liking a person? Remember the beginning of the show. Is it business or personal? If you personalize business, you have to ask yourself why. That person is none of your business, but you've made it personal. They're in the same business you're in. You're responsible as a person who signed off on that HR document about adhering to policies and procedures as defined in that handbook that they gave you a copy of, right? Because that's how I start most of my conversations when I had to call staff in the office. Policy and procedure manual right there. Because you're going to make it personal. I know you're going to make it personal. What does the policy say? What does the policy say? Right? You guys got conflict? How do you resolve the conflict? How do you resolve the conflict? I don't care really what happened other than what's reflected in the incident report. What's up, Tarini? Ito, Paramich, what does the policy say regarding staff conflict? What does the policy say about creating a hostile workplace environment? I'm responsible for this. I'm responsible for ensuring that all my staff can come in and not have to be subjected to your shenanigans. So I'm gonna handle that. Now, if this conversation is not going to end with me firing you, we gonna have to come to terms in how you're going to conduct yourself in this workplace. So when you come back from your suspension, whatever time period that's going to be, because you're getting suspended, right? And then there's like I always tell people, there's things we can talk about, and there's things we can't talk about. There's nothing to talk about when you're putting your hands on people. You're gone. When you become threatening and intimidating, with somebody yelling, screaming, and in their personal space, you understand? So you have to be able to. I don't give you three strikes. Y'all giving people too much of you, too much of you, because both of y'all are seasoned with insanity. Because both of y'all like drama, and that's how your relationship is. It's drama laden, drama ridden. It's rifled with drama. So you stay in that situation longer. You stay in that situation longer. You don't get two strikes. I'm not giving you two strikes. Your first one, I'm warning you. Marta, what's happening? How you doing? Right? I'm not giving you a second opportunity. See, from that first point, that's when we start establishing that boundary. That's in any relationship. It's not just in business, it's in any relationship. Once you let that person do it more than once and they go unaddressed, they're going to do it a second time. And that's the same thing I tell people about witnessing, things in the street. You see somebody on a block get robbed, you don't say nothing. How long you think it's going to be before it's you or your family member? How long? Huh? How long? That's your business. It becomes personal when it comes to you. But it was your business to handle in the beginning, but you minded yours because that's what the street code is for criminals. And you decided you wanted to give acknowledgement to that. But so it's not just about the apology, right? Your apology for me is about the change in your conduct. I don't care about your apology. We graciously say, I accept your apology. But in situations where it's worthwhile accepting your apology, I'll just tell you, well, no, I don't accept your apology. But I do expect for you to treat me with respect, the same respect I give you. I don't want your apology. I don't need your apology. Truth be told, the apology should be for you so you can cleanse your spirit and accept that apology. Your apology doesn't mean anything, especially if you show up again with the same behavior. And if you presented that behavior at this time, you will always present it because you haven't found a reason, a need to change that behavior yet. So your apology falls upon deaf ears. But I'm going to still be respectful towards you. But I'm going to keep that boundary right where it is. We're not going to have no idle chit chat. We're not going to have in passing conversation. We're not going to have any. We're going to have engagement related specifically to the task at hand. Plain and simple. I'm not going to act outside of myself. Hey, yeah, high five you if we all do a good job. We're working on a team together, but we ain't got nothing else to talk about. Nah, I'm good. Listen to what I'm telling y'all. Whatever a person presents to you the first time, believe it. All y'all spending all this time in relationships and you're thinking, oh, you're going to love it away, you're going to sex it away, you're going to gift it away, you're going to do all these wonderful, magnanimous things to bring about change, and there's going to be wedded bliss. You're setting yourself up. It just told you in that. In the paragraph earlier, what did it say? People can be dumb, people say mean things, people have no filter. It's only human to make a mistake and be critical or insulting. Right? It said that in the article. Listen, so we made it to number two. The next one is heed the double-edged sword of they shouldn't say that. And that starts going into the mustitis, shoulditis, can't stand itis, all that stuff. And as simple as that sounds, like to say mustitis, what is a mustitis? Well, a mustitis is that you believe that everybody must adhere to this same thought, this same thinking pattern as you. And if they fail to do that, then you take it personally. It would be nice if people didn't double park in front of a parking space. I've never understood that. Right? You double park in a parking space and you think you're helping me out? I can't get in because you in front of it. Why wouldn't you double park next to a parked car? Oh, because you want them to get out, but you don't want anybody else to get in, but you're only going to get in your car and pull off. It would be nice if people parked in the space, right? And it would be nicer if I had to double park next to you and you just hit the horn and I'm paying attention to hear the horn and come out there. That's not how it goes, right? But listen, we are at the hour. I need to get back onto this website. I'm upgrading, updating some SEO stuff, some optimizing the website for leanforyou.net. then changed, the changing the whole look. So when you go there now to alimforyou.net, that's ALIM number four, letter U.net. When you go there to do your shopping, hopefully you go tonight, go ahead and get them gifts in, before the holiday. But when you go there, what's up, Felicia? Antonio? But Destin, when you go there, you'll see a whole different look. Yeah. I'm going to be, changing the color, black background, just increasing some things so we have more visibility when people do their searches for particular things. Again, I'm still learning the e-commerce stuff, so I'm doing some other stuff to kind of pull that all together because that's going to be the lifeline for my family. A lean for you. That's the lean family business. Yeah. So my 3-year-old, that's her business. My 40-year-olds, that's her business. The other 40, this I'll probably never see the blow up, right? I mean the blow up, the real blow up. I might not. I don't know. I got today, but it's for them, man. I ain't. I don't need nothing. I need nothing. But having said all that, man, just take a look at what did you personalize in tonight's show when you watched the show. When you fall into disagreement, how do you take that? What goes on inside of you when you disagree with something? What goes inside you with my approach? Because listen, I laugh and joke kiki with you all the time, but I'm straightforward with stuff. I'm not trying to appease anybody, and I'm certainly not trying to appease anybody at 65. They said, older you get, the more you don't give a fuck. I want nobody saying you the same way you say, right? But I'm just saying, like, why, for what? Because it's better for you if somebody's smiling and laughing at your corny ass jokes while you're sitting there talking. That makes you feel better about being able to listen to them. No, 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 no. No grease is used on this show. Sorry, no grease. Um, yeah, but next week we're going to finish up this because we only got to number two. Uh, 6 ways not to take things personally. Right? You're driving yourself nuts. Taking too much personally. You really are. I usually play some music for you guys, but I'm downstairs. Didn't want to take this laptop back upstairs. I just put down my HD wide view camera. Put a shirt on. Yeah, I'm sitting down a little sweaty shirt. So yeah, see, when people get dressed up, you don't know what's under the clothes, man. You know what I'm saying? No, it ain't sweaty and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm sitting there working on this website. Still working on the album. The album will not be posted for release for the end of this month because I, I'm completed uh, 4 songs. I still haven't completed the mixing and mastering, but I got 4 more songs that are going on the album. These are 8 all new album songs. None of these are remixes because that's what I was going to put out. I got a couple of remixes I was working on of other releases. 8 new songs. The title of the album, Gods in a Man's World. Yeah. Album is deep, real heartfelt album. Yeah, it's my work should and does continue to improve. Um, Jumped in this in 21. Yeah, 2021. I started the ball rolling November, first release. Here I be. Right? Who does that in their 60s? You know what I'm saying? You think I just say, hey, you got some Geritol there, fella. Can you help me up? Like, where's the nurse? No, I ain't that guy. I'm not that guy. But yeah, but this will be my last album for a minute because this e-commerce is a beast. Want to open up a storefront soon. Get these pop-ups rolling. Um, yeah, Grillo, what's happening? Uh, Antonio. But yeah, so take a look at those things about yourself. Look at the things that you're personalizing and ask yourself, why are you personalizing it? What's triggering you? If that person is triggering you, you don't have to be around them. Stop being around them. You have too many people around you sometimes that just constantly trigger you, that get on your damn nerves constantly. They're always calling you on the phone. They're always knocking on your door. Do you know how frustrating, irritating that is? And then you watch the news, and then you get on social media. Yo, cut some of this stuff out of your life. Cut some of this stuff out of your life. Why do you need all those friends? Are they really friends? No, they're just people who you identify with. Hell, I identify with the whole world. I'm a human being. We have that in common. Don't mean you got to be my damn friend. Roadman0232, what's up? You understand what I'm saying? Listen, we at the hour. Remember this in closing. When in conflict, make it a teach you about me moment instead of a tell you about you moment. When you're having conflict with somebody, don't waste your breath telling them about themselves. They already know. They just don't want to accept and acknowledge it. Tell them about you. Tell that person how their behavior is affecting you. And because that behavior affects me the way it does, the best thing I can do is just stay away from it. Ain't no sense of cussing nobody out because they did this and they did that. They already know what they did. They know what they do. They don't know why necessarily, but they already know that. They know who they are. That's what they ride on. Why are you arguing with them? You think that's going to change them? No. Let them know how you feel. So when you did this, it made me feel like this. That's not what I want to carry on my spirit. So I'm going to just stop dealing with you. Or when we come to work, it's strictly about the work. I'll never be disrespectful towards you. Any of those things like that. We're going to work together. We're going to get the job done. But anything outside of that, I'm good. I'll see y'all next Saturday, 8 o'clock. Daddy's right here live. I'm your host as always, Sabir Aleem. Thank you so much for tuning in. Y'all have a good one. Peace. What y'all doing out there? Da, 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 da.